Liam pushed Aurelius against the wall, his rough hand gripping the collar of Aurelius's Arcturian suit. "Don't mess with me. I'll fix your tin can, but only if I get to poke around the insides," Liam said. "Deal," Aurelius choked out, his hands scrabbling at Liam's wrist. Liam's sweat-streaked face loomed inches from Aurelius's, his gray eyes as hard as hull plating. Aurelius nodded frantically. Liam released him with a shove. "Good. Now let's see this fancy ship of yours," he said, striding out of the cluttered workshop, boots clanging on the grated floor. Aurelius straightened his collar with a shaking hand and hurried after the mechanic, his heart pounding. His shuttle waited in the docking bay, a gleaming silver arrowhead stark against the station's rusted bulk. Liam let out a low whistle as they approached, eyeing the sleek lines and glowing blue engines. "D***man, you Arcturians don't mess around," he said, running a hand along the smooth hull, leaving a smear of engine grease. Aurelius winced but said nothing. Liam was his only hope of making the summit in time. If he failed to secure the trade deal, his people would starve. Their crops had failed, and their supplies dwindled with each passing day. Liam hit the hatch release and ducked inside, with Aurelius close on his heels. The human's eyes widened as he took in the gleaming consoles and holographic displays. "Holy," he muttered, cracking his knuckles. "Let's see what this baby can do." Liam punched the throttle, sending the sleek Arcturian shuttle hurtling through the void. Aurelius gripped his seat, eyes wide as streaks of light blurred past the view screen. "Hold on to your scales, buddy. We got company?" Liam said, jerking the controls hard to port as a barrage of missiles streaked by, barely missing them. Aurelius gaped at the chaos erupting outside, two massive fleets pounding each other with everything they had. Fighters swirled, and explosions bloomed against the star's cape. "Are you insane? We need to get out of here," Aurelius exclaimed. Liam grinned, banking the ship into a steep dive that had Aurelius's stomach lurching. "No way. This is the perfect chance to see what this baby can really do." The human's hands flew over the controls with surprising skill, sending them corkscrewing through the maelstrom of fire. Aurelius watched in disbelief as Liam somehow anticipated every shot, every missile slipping through gaps in the onslaught that should have been impossible. Maybe the human wasn't quite as reckless as he thought. Aurelius had to admit the man knew how to fly. He was just starting to relax when a bone-rattling impact slammed him against his restraints. Alarms howled, and red lights flashed. "Hull breach, Deck 2, engines losing power." Liam called over the din, his hands still moving. Aurelius started to panic, but Liam was already up, grabbing tools and sprinting aft. "Keep her steady," he yelled as he vanished into the smoke. "Keep her steady?" Aurelius muttered, reaching for the controls with shaking hands, trying to remember his basic flight training. It was all he could do not to send them careening into a stray torpedo. Terrifying minutes crawled by, the ship shuddering and groaning around him. Finally, Liam reappeared, his face streaked with sweat and grease. "All right, patched her up best I could. Won't hold forever though. We need to." He broke off, leaning forward to peer at a readout. Son of a civilian transport lay dead ahead, crippled from a bad hit. "We have to help them," Aurelius said, following Liam's gaze to the stricken vessel lurching through the firefight. Liam shot him a look. "Thought you wanted to run and hide." Aurelius set his jaw. Maybe this human madness was rubbing off on him. "I changed my mind. Take us in." Liam flashed a fierce grin and sent them hurtling towards the stricken vessel, juking and spinning to evade the crossfire. Aurelius found himself marveling at the sheer audacity of it. This human was either the bravest soul he'd ever met or completely cracked. Maybe both. With a teeth-rattling thud, they slammed into the transport's docking port. Liam was out of his chair in an instant, hitting the hatch controls. "I'll get him. You keep the engine hot," he said before vanishing, magnetic boots clanging on the outer hull. Aurelius gripped the stick and tried not to think about the missile lock alarms blaring from every console. Long minutes crawled by, the ship shaking around him as near misses buffeted the weakening shields. Just as Aurelius was sure they were dead, the airlock light flashed green. Liam tumbled through with a gaggle of wide-eyed refugees, alien faces pale with fear and awe. "Punch it!" Liam roared. Aurelius wrenched the throttle open, and the ship leapt forward, engines screaming. The stars blurred into lines of light as they rocketed away from the carnage. A dozen voices raised in ragged cheers behind them. Aurelius sagged back in his chair, hardly believing they'd made it. He glanced over at Liam, who was comforting a sniffling alien child with surprising gentleness. The human met his gaze, lips quirking. "Not bad, tin can. Guess you do have some guts in there after all," Liam said. Aurelius rolled his eyes, trying to hide a smile. Crude and reckless, but he couldn't deny it. Liam had come through when it mattered. Maybe this partnership wasn't such a terrible idea after all. Liam guided the battered Arcturian shuttle into the station's docking bay, the refugee ship they'd rescued close behind. As the airlock cycled and they stepped out onto the deck, a dozen station crews swarmed them, blankets and medical kits in hand. Liam stepped back, letting them work. He turned to Aurelius. "Let's see what the damage is." They made their way to the rear of the ship, Aurelius's face tightening as he saw the scorch marks and torn metal. Liam popped a panel and stuck his head inside, letting out a low whistle. "Damn. Looks like that missile fragged your quantum core reactors." "Shot to hell," Liam said. Aurelius sagged against the hull. "No, oh no, this can't be happening. I have to get to that summit. My people are counting on me." Liam clapped him on the shoulder. "Hey, we ain't dead yet. I got an idea." He ducked into the ship, rummaging through the cargo hold. "Your fancy ship's dead in the water, but I might be able to rig something with human tech. Going to need to gut one of our fusion reactors, though." Aurelius stared at him. "You want to put human technology in my ship?" Liam shrugged. "You got a better idea? Way I see it, it's that or float around out here until you miss your big meeting." Aurelius sighed, shoulders slumping. "Very well. Do what you must." As Liam worked elbow-deep in wires and humming reactor components, Aurelius found himself pacing the cramped confines of the ship. The human's rough confidence was reassuring, but doubt gnawed at him. Would this gamble pay off, or would he be stranded, his people left to starve? "So, what's the deal with this summit anyway?" Liam asked, his voice muffled behind a panel. "Must be pretty important for you to risk your neck like this." Aurelius hesitated, then found himself speaking, the words spilling out. He spoke of his world, once verdant and thriving, now choked by famine. The trade deal he hoped to secure was a lifeline for his people. In turn, Liam shared his own stories as he worked. Close scrapes and daring repairs, the thrill and danger of life on the fringes of civilized space. Aurelius listened, fascinated despite himself. For all their differences, maybe they weren't so dissimilar. Both were fighting for something bigger than themselves. Hours turned into days as they limped through space, the ship shuddering around the jury-rigged reactor. Aurelius found his initial distaste for the human fading, replaced by a grudging respect for all his rough edges. Liam had a good heart. The console pinged, jolting Aurelius from his musings, a distress beacon coming from a nearby Arcturian colony. His heart seized as he read the message. A pirate raid in progress, civilians in danger. He looked up at Liam, who was already sliding into the pilot seat, face grim. "What do you want to do?" "Your call," Liam said. Aurelius closed his eyes. His people were waiting, the summit just days away. But how could he turn his back on a colony in need? He set his jaw and opened his eyes. "Take us in. We have to help." Liam nodded sharply and gunned the engines, arrowing towards the distress beacon. Aurelius gripped his chair as they dropped out of warp, the besieged colony growing in the view screen. A bolt of fear lanced through him as a massive ship swung into view, bristling with guns. A pirate frigate, far outclassing their small shuttle. Liam swore colorfully, hands flying over the controls. "Strap in and hang on. This is going to get bumpy." The pirate ship opened fire, lances of energy scourging past them as Liam sent them into a wild corkscrew. Aurelius found himself marveling at the human's sheer audacity, even as terror clawed at his throat. This was insanity. But as they hurtled towards the beleaguered colony, darting and juking through a hail of fire, Aurelius found a strange calm settling over him. Live or die, they were doing the right thing. He glanced over at Liam, jaw set in concentration as he wove an impossible path through the onslaught. A smile tugged at Aurelius's lips. He couldn't think of anyone he'd rather have at his side in this mad charge. The pirate ship loomed before them, guns swiveling to lock on. Liam's hands tightened on the controls, eyes narrowed to steely slits. "All right, you bastards. Let's dance," Liam muttered, jaw clenched. Aurelius gripped the armrest, scales paling. "We have to run. We can't possibly fight that thing," he said, panicked. Liam shot him a lopsided grin. "Who said anything about fighting?" His fingers danced over the console, pulling up schematics. I got an idea. If I can rig the comms array to emit a focused EMP, might be able to knock out their systems, buy us some time. Aurelius leaned in, eyes widening as he studied the readouts. A localized ionic feedback loop. Yes, I see. His own hands joined Liam's. Liam refined the calculations with dizzying speed, adjusting the frequency modulation and boosting the power output. Shoulder to shoulder, fingers flying, they worked in tandem, two minds, human and Arcturian, bent towards a single purpose. With a final keystroke, Liam sat back. That ought to do it. Hang on to your scales, he said, punching the throttle, sending them hurtling towards the pirate ship. The frigate swung to meet them, guns charging with an ominous hum. Steady, Liam breathed, hands hovering over the pulse controls. The hull shuddered as a warning shot screeched past. Aurelius found himself holding his breath, every muscle coiled tight. The pirate ship filled the screen, looming like a predator. Now, Liam slammed the controls, a shuddering pulse bursting from their array. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the pirate ship's lights flickered, engines sputtering and dying. It listed in space, dead in the void. Liam was already angling them towards the stricken ship's docking port. Like kicking the plug on a kitchen appliance, Aurelius sagged back, a giddy laugh bubbling in his throat. I can't believe that worked. Liam flashed him a wink as he brought them in to dock. Stick with me, tin can. I'm full of surprises. The ship clanged as the docking clamps engaged. Liam was up in a flash, sidearm in hand. All right, let's go say howdy. Aurelius swallowed hard and followed, heart pounding as the airlock hissed open. The pirate ship's corridor stretched before them, dimly lit and ominously silent. They crept forward, Liam in the lead, hugging the walls. A scuff of boots, a glint of metal. Don't move. A dozen pirates materialized from the shadows, weapons trained on them. Liam froze, slowly raising his hands. A figure pushed to the front, heavily scarred and gripping a wicked rifle, the pirate leader. Bold of you, attacking a Daxian frigate. Stupid, but bold, he sneered, eyes narrowing. Drop the gun, and maybe we'll settle for just taking your ship. Liam glanced at Aurelius, a question in his eyes. Aurelius stepped forward, hands spread wide. Please, we mean you no harm. I am Aurelius, an Arcturian diplomat. We intercepted your attack on the colony and... He trailed off, really looking at the pirates for the first time. Their clothes were ragged, faces gaunt, scars and burns, some barely healed. These were not the flashy marauders of the Holovids, Aurelius realized. The leader spat. Thought you'd play hero, swoop in and save the day. He gestured at his crew, lip curling. Take a good look, diplomat. You see any heroes here? We're just trying to survive. Aurelius's heart clenched. He'd seen eyes like that before, in refugee camps and war zones, the hollow stare of those with nothing left to lose. You're from Zos, aren't you? The Civil War. The leader stiffened, eyes going wide. How did you? Aurelius forged on. We can help you. Asylum. Aid. A chance at a new life, if you'll let us. Silence stretched taut as a wire. The leader stared at Aurelius, searching his face. Behind him, the pirates shifted uneasily. And why should we trust you? The leader asked at last, voice raw. Aurelius met his gaze steadily. Because I give you my word as an Arcturian, and as someone who has seen too much suffering. Please, let us help. Another beat, then the leader lowered his gun. Stand down. He looked back at Aurelius, something like hope kindling in his eyes. We'll talk. As the pirates wearily lowered their weapons, Liam let out a low whistle. Smooth. You ever consider going into politics? Aurelius shot him a wry look. Shut up and fix the damage from your pulse. I have a feeling we're going to need this ship. Liam sketched a mock salute, already moving towards the bridge. Aye aye, Captain. One pirate ship coming right up. As Aurelius turned back to the pirate leader, his mind already racing with plans and possibilities, he felt a smile tug at his lips. He'd boarded the ship expecting a fight, but maybe, just maybe, they'd found something better, a chance to make a real difference. It was going to be one hell of a diplomatic meeting. The massive Arcturian space station loomed ahead, a gleaming behemoth against the starry backdrop. Liam let out a low whistle as he guided the ship towards the docking bay. Got to hand it to you, Aurelius, your people sure know how to build them big. Aurelius managed a tight smile, his scales still pale from their harrowing encounter with the pirates. It's one of our largest diplomatic hubs. Normally, I'd be thrilled to show you around, But given the circumstances, his words trailed off as a klaxon blared through the ship's speakers, red lights flashing on the console. John frowned, fingers flying over the controls. We've got company. A whole damn fleet looks like. Aurelius leaned forward, eyes widening as he saw the formation of Arcturian military ships bearing down on them. This doesn't make sense. Why would they? Unidentified vessel. This is Captain Zaylor of the Arcturian Defense Force. A stern voice crackled over the comms. You are harboring a fugitive wanted for treason and espionage. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Treason? Espionage? What the hell are they talking about? John demanded, even as he raised their shields and primed the engines for evasive maneuvers. Aurelius shook his head, a sinking feeling in his gut. I think they're talking about you, Liam. Allowing a human access to our technology is strictly forbidden. They must have found out about the reactor. Liam's jaw tightened. So what? They're going to blow us out of the sky for fixing your ship? I won't let that happen. Aurelius squared his shoulders and opened a channel. This is Ambassador Aurelius. There's been a misunderstanding. The human is no spy, he's a friend who saved my life. We seek an audience to explain. There was a crackle of static, then a response. Ambassador Aurelius, you are ordered to turn over the human for interrogation and imprisonment. Failure to comply will mark you as a collaborator. This is your final warning. Aurelius slumped back, despair etched on his face. Liam reached over and gripped his shoulder. Hey, it's going to be okay. We'll figure this out. Aurelius shook his head. No, Liam. I can't let you suffer for my mistakes. I'll tell them the truth, make them understand. And if they don't listen, I'm not letting you throw away your life for me. Liam's eyes were fierce, determined. Here's what we're going to do. I surrender. Go with them quietly. Buy you some time to work this out through official channels. Jon, no. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. John's grip tightened. Aurelius, you've got a real chance to make a difference. Those refugees, they need you. Your people need you. Let me do this. Aurelius blinked back sudden tears, humbled by the human selflessness. I'll come for you, I swear it. No matter how long it takes. I'll make this right. Liam flashed a crooked grin. I know you will. He reached for the comms, his voice steady as he spoke. This is John, the human. I surrender myself into your custody. The military ships closed in, docking clamps latching onto their hull with a shudder. Liam stood, squaring his shoulders as the airlock hissed open. A dozen Arcturian soldiers poured in, weapons trained on him. Liam raised his hands, stepping forward slowly. Aurelius surged to his feet. Wait! The soldiers tensed, but Liam waved them off, turning back to face Aurelius. For a long moment, they just looked at each other, 1,000 unspoken words passing between them. Thank you, Liam said at last, his voice rough with emotion. For everything. It's been one hell of a ride. Aurelius clasped his hand, pulling him into a fierce embrace. I will find a way to free you, he whispered. I swear it on my life. Liam returned the embrace, then pulled away, a small smile on his face. I know. Until then, you give them hell in those fancy diplomatic meetings. Yeah. Aurelius managed a watery chuckle. I will. Farewell, my friend. Then the soldiers were pulling Liam away, snapping restraints around his wrists. Aurelius could only watch, heart twisting, as they marched him out of sight. In the weeks that followed, Aurelius threw himself into his work with a ferocity that surprised even him. He called in every favor, pulled every string, working tirelessly to prove Liam's innocence. He brought the refugees they'd saved to the capital to testify on Liam's behalf, telling the story of his bravery and compassion. But the military wouldn't budge. Embarrassed and enraged by the security breach, they painted Liam as a master spy, a manipulator who had tricked Aurelius into giving him access to Arcturian secrets. No matter how Aurelius argued, they wouldn't see reason. The trial was a farce, a predetermined outcome. Aurelius could only watch, helpless, as Liam was sentenced to life imprisonment on a distant penal colony. As the guards dragged him away, Liam caught Aurelius's eye, holding his gaze. There was no anger there, no blame, just a sort of resigned acceptance and a flicker of something that might have been pride. Aurelius renewed his vow that day, even as he threw himself into his new cause, fighting for the rights of refugees and other marginalized people. He ascended through the ranks, earning a reputation as a fierce advocate and champion for the downtrodden. But he never forgot his promise. Every day, he worked tirelessly to clear Liam's name, petitioning for his release. Took years, even decades, but Aurelius never gave up. Finally, a breakthrough came. New evidence emerged, coupled with a change in leadership, and John was granted a pardon. Aurelius was there to meet him as he stepped off the transport, back on the same space station where their journey began. John appeared thinner, grayer, his face lined with new scars and old pain, but his eyes still held that indomitable spirit. Tears flowed freely as Aurelius embraced him. They talked for hours, catching up on lost time. Liam spoke of the hardships he'd endured, the darkness he'd faced. Aurelius told him of the changes he'd fought for, the difference he'd tried to make. As they stood together, looking out at the stars, Aurelius realized that they'd both been irrevocably changed by their time together. His once narrow view had been shattered, replaced by a deeper understanding of the complexities of the universe. And John, for all his suffering, seemed to stand a little taller, a little prouder, as if knowing he'd made a difference even from behind bars. "What will you do now?" Aurelius asked softly, almost afraid to hear the answer. Liam was quiet for a long moment. "I think I'd like to see some of those refugee colonies you've been helping. See if I can lend a hand." Aurelius smiled, warmed by the thought. "I think they'd like that very much." They clasped hands one last time, a gesture of friendship, of brotherhood. Then Liam was turning away, shouldering his pack. "Until next time, Tin Can," he called over his shoulder. "Until next time," Aurelius echoed. "Safe travels, my friend." As he watched John walk away, Aurelius knew that whatever the future held, they would both carry a piece of each other with them, always. A bond forged in the crucible of adversity, tempered by time and distance, but never broken. It was the kind of story they would tell for generations. A tale of two unlikely friends who changed each other, and maybe, just maybe, changed the universe along the way. If you appreciated this story and wish to show your support, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Additionally, for each comment containing 88, I will heart every single one. Thank you for your time.